Peace. My name is Misty Moon, and I am an integrative health coach for women. And my purpose is to help women heal physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. And today we're going to be addressing a combination of both the emotional and the spiritual aspect of healing, which is through the inner child, which is one of my favorite modalities right now. And I'm going to share with you what the inner child is, why it's vital for your healing, and I'll offer you about 2 easy tools that you can start using right away. Okay, let's get into it. So I was introduced to inner child work back in 2005 when I was studying to become a holistic counselor at Body Mind College. And to be honest with you, I just wasn't ready for it. I didn't really get it. I just didn't connect with it. And there were a few students who obviously were in the class that were always speaking of their little girl. And there was a friend that there was also a massage clinic connected to the school, and I also did massage therapy there. So one of the other massage therapists was hanging out in the lounge, and she's like, "Oh yeah, and my little girl, we watched Pandora's Box last night, and my little girl was just frightened." And I was like, "Oh, I didn't know you had a child." She's like, "No, I'm talking about my inner child." And so honestly, I think part of it, I just at that point was just annoyed because everyone kept addressing their inner child as their little girl, their little boy. And so anyway, there's a time for everything, right? So after having my experience, and that's the thing, all healing is experiential. You can read about it all that you want, but until you're in the depths of it, you're not going to have a connection with it. And so when I went through my depression, my severe depression, it was through that process I was reintroduced to inner child when I started attending adult Alcoholics of Anonymous. And that will be another video I'll do too and share what that is, because it's just, oh my God, it's been really a huge part of my healing. But through that, because really with the Adult Child Anonymous, the whole focus is on inner child work. And even with my therapist, it all comes down to the inner child, because your inner child is what's in the unconscious part of you. It's the part of you that remembers everything and I'm jumping ahead of myself because I'm getting really excited here. Well, first of all, inner child, as far as the concept of inner child work, it goes all the way back to Carl Jung in the 1800s. And it's now used in various psychological models, including holistic modalities as well. And so what is your inner child? Your inner child represents your true self. It's the part of you that's connected to source or to God. And it's the most raw and untainted part of yourself, okay? So it's a part of you that is bright, is curious, is spontaneous, the part of you that's in awe of life. Just think about all the qualities that you see in children. That's your inner child. Like, think about when you absorb a child, especially like a 4 or 5-year-old, they're just always true to their emotions. When they're happy, they're super ecstatic, they're laughing. One of my favorite 5-year-olds in the world, his name is Maddie, and he's just so much fun to be around. I mean, when he finds something that cracks him up, he just loses it, and it's contagious. I love Maddie. And so, yeah, so also when children are upset, they definitely have no qualms letting you know, so they're just true to who they are, like, think about it, like a little child that's walking around with a beer belly and their diapers, just or just running around butt naked, no care in the world, because they haven't been conditioned to, and their spirit, their natural self hasn't been conditioned into something that they're not. Pardon me for repeating myself. So by connecting to your inner child, it will remind you of who you truly are. Because again, like, as we get older, we start to create these false personas based on how we want people to accept us. Not everybody's like this, but most people are. Most people are not really living in their true selves. They try to just mold themselves and censor themselves so that they're not stepping over any boundaries, or they're trying to people please. And then you get further and further away from who you are. And then before you know it, you are depressed and you're numbing out because you can't even be with all your emotions. And that's another thing too that we have a hard time with. It's difficult. We have a hard time being with all of our emotions, the good and the bad. So And again, I'm jumping ahead of myself here, but I'm just going to stick with my notes, and then I'll get to what I wanted to say. So, as children, when we're growing up, our brains are developing, our nervous systems are developing, and we are hypersensitive to all the stimuli that's coming towards us with the people around us, and especially our parents. And so, what happens is that it gets locked in at a particular point in our development. And then those beliefs, the things that we see, it becomes a foundation of who we become as adults. And so I have a quote here from my dear teacher, Dr. Barry Green. May he rest in peace. He's the founder of my school, Body Mind College, that I went to. And this is what he has to say about the whole process of developing as children. All psychological thought agrees that the world is reflection by what we believe. The experiences of our childhood, whether functional or dysfunctional, beneficial or destructive, will be the basis and underlying belief system of the world, ourselves, and others. Okay, so if there was some type of trauma in our upbringing, then as adults, our actions and decisions unconsciously are guided by those childhood experiences. And of course, vice versa. If you had, a childhood that was filled with love and tenderness, then your decisions will be based off of that. But the majority of us, had dysfunctional childhood, and so we are living through those dysfunctions. And so, like all healing, like I always say here, that it always comes down to our thoughts. It always comes down to what we're thinking, because as Master Coach Booker Steele said, and I probably say this in almost every video, she has what's called the model. And it's a universal truth. It's not like Brooke just made this up. I mean, it is universal truth that our thoughts affect our emotions. Then our emotions, we act out of our emotions, right? So our thoughts affect our emotions. Then our emotions affect our actions, and our actions yield our results. It's just a universal truth. So the trick is, how do we get to, what can we get to the root of that thought, right? And there's various modalities that help you get to the roots of those thoughts, and inner child work is one of them, okay? So before we go further into me explaining a little bit more about inner child and how it works, I gotta say this, that our parents did the best that they could. Most of the parents in this world are all doing the best that they could. Most of our parents are also acting out through their unconscious trauma that they got from their parents, and so on and so on. I mean, generational trauma is a real thing. And we are blessed. We are so blessed to be able to have tools and knowledge to know how to go through back into down to our unconsciousness, to pull the root of those negative beliefs, so that we can not only heal ourselves, but be able to heal our future generations coming after us. So this is an exciting time to be alive, but it's going to take the inner work in order to get to that place. Okay, so I just wanted to say that. And when you start doing the healing, especially inner child healing, you also want the emotions to come up. You are going to feel upset with your parents. I know for a good part of my healing, I was pissed at my parents. Even though now as an adult, I have an amazing relationship with them. But when I had to go back into those memories, it was like, oh, damn. Oh, that's kind of effed up, But again, it's like that balance of allowing those emotions to come up so that your inner child has a voice, that your inner child has a space to feel, but then remembering, okay, but I know that mom and dad were in their own little world at that time. And I know it's a difficult balance, especially for those who had really extreme traumatic upbringing as far as sexual abuse and physical abuse. I'm not saying that they get off the hook, but the forgiveness is really all about you. It's about you lightening up your heart. I'm getting emotional just thinking about it, because I know people in my life that are still pissed off at their parents. They're just not willing to let it go. And as a result, they're doing the exact same thing with their kids, and they're unhappy in many ways. On the outside, they look good and, they have this persona, but on the inside, they're really suffering. So the forgiveness is all about you. It's about you lighting up your heart so that you can fully live your life the way that God intended for you to live your life, which is happiness and sustainable health and sustainable happiness. Okay, so I just wanted to say that. I have another quote here from my teacher, Barry Green, because I think this is really interesting what I learned from him as far as parenting is concerned. So, the human parent is said to be the only animal not instinctively knowing how to raise its own to be human. Think about it. When a cat has her baby, she knows what to do. A lion knows what to do when they have their babies. Elephants know what to do when they have their babies. You know, they even know like what herbs to go seek out, you know, or what herbs not to eat. But as humans, we didn't, I mean, we have all these other amazing qualities, but we didn't quite have those innate instincts. The early childhood learning is experiential. We just absorb our environment impressions. So if we don't know who we are and our parents don't instinctively know how to help us learn this knowledge, we're going to absorb whatever truth, fears, delusions, and pass it. And we're going to absorb whatever truths, fears, delusions were passed on through our generational lineage. So I'm basically repeating the same thing that I said earlier, but I just wanted to just bring up that point again about our parents doing the best they can, because when we were born, we didn't come with blueprints. So I just want to emphasize that. So I'm going to take a deep breath here because it's a lot to take in. And again, I just want to remind us all that we are blessed to have these tools of the inner child work and all these other psychological tools out there to help us heal. It's just a matter of us doing the work to be able to shift that paradigm. Okay, so I'm going to just give you a few more facts, and I'm going to share a little bit about my own personal experience. I'm going to offer you some tools. So I really like this quote as well. It's by a prominent psycho-spiritual counselor by the name of Mateo Sol. Has this to say about inner child healing. That inner child healing, this reconnection that you do within inner child healing allows you to access the fragmented parts of yourself so that you can discover the root of your phobias, fears, insecurities, and self-sabotaging inclinations. Instead of simply finding and looking at the symptoms of your pain, your inner child will help you go right to the core and reveal when your issue began and deal with it effortlessly or effectively and efficiently, excuse me. So again, it's just kind of like hitting the point home of like what inner child work does. It allows you to get down to the root of the trauma so that you can heal that and then be able to pull out those negative beliefs out of your unconsciousness so that you can be free and be able to live the life that you were designed to live. Okay, so I just want to share something really quickly about my inner child. And another thing too to keep in mind that there's various ages of your inner child. You know, like for the first part of my experience with my inner child work, it was mostly my 4, 5, 6-year-old, and it's just been within the last few weeks that my teenager is starting to emerge. So it happens organically. You just gotta just trust the process. And an easy way to do that, and I shared this in an Instagram feed a few weeks ago, is dominant and non-dominant handwriting. Okay, so what you do is get a piece of paper or journal. With your dominant hand, you write a question like, hello, how are you today? And then with your non-dominant hand, you write the answer. And if you've never done this before, you might just get silence for a while because it's going to take your inner child to feel like they can trust you. Because keep in mind, if you've never done any child work, if you have never done any inner child work and you've had trauma in your life, your inner children are going to be upset with you for not being there to protect them. So it's going to take consistency. It's going to take really putting in an effort to start to connect with that part of you before they start to express themselves. Because back then, when I first learned about inner child work, I was doing it, but I wasn't getting any answers because I wasn't really committed. But now that I'm committed with all my heart, I have this beautiful dialogue with all of them. And so I want to share a meditation. I'm going to put it in the links in the description. And this meditation is just so powerful. So in this meditation, what you do, you go on your timeline And again, this is all just intuition. It's not cerebral. You just allow whatever happens to happen. But you go on your timeline and you go back to a particular part in your childhood, wherever you feel called to go to. And then you walk in that room where that child is, and then you just have a conversation with them. So, for an example, when I first started interacting with my 4-year-old, she just wanted to play. Like, my 4-year-old was cool. She's like, hey, like, happy you're here, like, there's never any animosity towards her. And then my 6-year-old, she just wanted to do homework. She just wanted me to help her with her homework. So I started doing that. My teenager, because that's when the depression really started hitting in, there's still a lot more work that I need to do there. She's still not quite ready to talk to me yet, and that's absolutely okay. But you start to learn like all the different personalities of your inner child. It's really, really fascinating. So what I can advise is that when you do this work, and there's so many tools out there, so many ways to do it, but I just want to give you those 2 really easy ones. I'll give you the link to the meditation, and the dominant and non-dominant handwriting is just a really quick, easy way to access it. Let's see if there's anything else that I wanted to say about inner child. Also, you can give them names. Like I have a name for each of the ages. They really enjoy that. Again, just consistency. Like for me, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for half an hour, I just sit down and write. Sometimes I just may want to go get some ice cream. Sometimes they want to color in a color book. About a month ago when I was connected with my inner child, she wanted to dance, so I had a dance party with her. So it just gets you back to that playful, light aspect of yourself. So yeah, there's some deep healing that's going to bring up some traumatic emotions, but at the same time, it gets you back to that place of just play and lightfulness. So in conclusion, I'm just going to list off a couple of characteristics or signs that it will indicate that you do indeed have a wounded child. Probably most of us are going to identify with this, with 1 or 2. You feel that there's something wrong with you in the deepest parts of yourself. You experience anxiety when going out of your comfort zone. You're a people pleaser. You don't have a strong sense of identity. You deliberately like being in conflict with people around you. You're a hoarder of things, emotions, people, and have a hard time letting go. You feel inadequate. You constantly criticize. You constantly criticize yourself for being inadequate. So you just beat yourself when you're down. You're unforgiving to yourself, rigid, and a perfectionist. And the last is you have a hard time committing and trusting. So if any of those resonate with you, then I highly recommend I think everyone in general should at least try this inner child exercise or just inner child healing, because it's really profound. So next week, for Womb Wisdom, I'm going to be discussing parenting, because that's a whole other topic as far as connecting with your inner child. I just wanted to at least introduce you to the concept, and then we'll go a little bit deeper next week when it comes to your critical parent and versus your loving parent. So anyway, I think that's it for now. I hope this information was helpful on some level for you. Like I said, I just really love inner child work. It's just so much fun. It's just so inspiring, and it really lights you up when you get to that sweet spot, when you finally start to connect with those various parts of yourself. So anyway, I hope you all have a beautiful, beautiful day, and I look forward to connecting with you in our next video. Until then, take care.